Hello everybody and welcome back to Space Engine. Where we left off, we were on this cold ice world. I'm not entirely sure what color it is. I want to say blue, but it could almost be purple, but I can't really see purple, so when I say something's purple, it's because it looks a blue or a pink that other people have said is purple. So I basically have to take everyone's word for it. Doesn't matter. Let's carry on. Today we're gonna just kind of hop about the galaxy. Actually, where even are we? Are we in the Milky Way still? I don't even remember. Oh well. That's a yellow dwarf triple system. Always fun times. Hey, 8 planets just like ours. Well, 8 major planets. I'm sorry, Pluto is still a planet. It's a dwarf planet. It doesn't make it any less of a planet. It just means that it's a minor planet. So is Sirius. It's a minor planet. And if you think that's bad, Callisto's a moon, but it's bigger than Mercury, so it's like, oh. Like, if it was by itself, it would be a planet, but it's a moon instead. That's just unfortunate. Or is it Callisto or Ganymede? One of those two. I think it's Callisto's the bigger one. Could be wrong. Yeah, look that up on Google. I don't remember right now off the top of my head. But I'm pretty sure it's Callisto. Or maybe no, or is it Ganymede, the bigger one? Oh, crap. I can use my phone and just look. But I'm currently going to time me. No, I think Callisto's the one that has like the weird magnetic field. Ganymede's the bigger one. One of those two. It should be a planet, but it's around Jupiter, so it's a moon. And there's like Europa's tiny. Actually quite tiny. It's kind of sad. But, you know, whatever. Ice shell moons. What's new in the world? Starlink was supposed to launch today, but the launch was scrubbed due to high winds. Kind of disappointing, but I wasn't really... It was kind of like I was watching Star Trek, and I was on Twitter on my phone, and it was like, oh, it's going to launch in 10 minutes. Sure, I'll watch that. And then it was scrubbed, and it's like, eh, whatever, I'm watching Star Trek anyways. So it wasn't like a huge deal. But we're going to carry on, shall we? My balloon is almost ready. Like I have all the parts for it now. I have the data logger, the camera, and the GPS tracker. I'm just putting together the capsule for it, and we'll go from there. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I even know where to get helium. Like I was looking at party stores, but they rent helium on a day-to-day basis, so it's like, you know, $35 per day. I'm like, that's not gonna work for me. So I was asking around. I found a welding store that has helium tanks, and they're like, yeah, it's like 40 cents a day, and it's like, that's more like it. So I'll probably do that. I'm kind of aiming for a launch sometime in July or August during thunderstorm season. So, yeah, we'll see how that pans out. I've only been waiting 2 years for this, so let's head closer to the galactic core, or the galactic bulge, as it's called. That was a carbon star. White dwarf, orange dwarf, red giant, orange giant. Oh, there's life. What the hell? Let's go, I suppose. Unicellular. Let's go. I seem kind of out of it today. I don't know why. I'm not very enthusiastic. Probably because I have a bit of a headache. I don't know. But I'm actually in a great mood, so I have no reason to not be enthusiastic. Info, abiogenic, marine, organic, multicellular. What's the atmosphere looking like? Carbon dioxide, oxygen, sulfur dioxide, argon, neon, nitrogen, carbon monoxide, krypton, and water. Lovely. Wow, N2 tripped me up. That's a first. Oh well. What's its moon all about? It's a temperate oceania. Wait a minute. Its radius. Alright, so it's only a little bit smaller than its host, or its parent body. So these probably like berry center around each other, actually. Man, if you imagine like evolving on this planet, and then you have this big ass moon in your sky, and you go there, and it's full of like water and stuff. Ugh. That'd be cool. Our moon's kind of barren. But it could have possibly supported life way, way, way back. Like, almost immediately after its formation, it might have had an atmosphere that was thick enough, or at least warm enough and thick enough to allow for liquid water to exist. But it would have been very, very short-lived. So, who knows? Like, no. Because I don't think life had even taken hold before the moon came into the scene, so... Either way, it's interesting, you know, like there may have been... And actually, there was some evidence of, like, very old, ancient geysers on the moon, so... Who knows, right after it formed, it may have been hot enough that it may have had water and steam and probably a really crappy atmosphere, but just as long as the pressures and temperatures were correct, you could have had liquid water. But because it's the moon, it would have lost that really quickly, so it probably only had it for like a few thousand years, maybe a couple million, if that, before it would have been lost. It's still kind of cool to think about, you know, the idea of having a moon with a thick atmosphere. Kind of like playing Spore, and you have like your moon that has like life on it, and you're like, that's weird. Spore's fun. I should play it some more. I mean, I cheat a lot in it. I just use console commands for everything, but it's still fun. Oh, where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Do 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 do. I've actually been meaning to do airsoft videos the last little bit. My gun is still in for upgrades. The shop I take it to, they're honestly really good, and like the people there are really great, but they're very disorganized. Like, they either need to hire another person to do dedicated just organization, or they need to like figure out a new system, because frequently you take something in there to get it repaired or upgraded or whatever, and it'll get lost in a pile. So like my gun's been in for 2 months, and then I got a message 2 days ago, where they were like, yeah, the hop-up is out of stock, so we'll have to like figure something else out. And I was like, ugh. So I called them, and they told me about it, and I said, all right, I'll call back tomorrow. I'll determine what I want then. Because I was thinking of maybe getting a different hop-up, because the one that I was planning on getting with them it's basically a clone of the PDI hop-up, so like it isn't bad, but it's pretty standard. But I was thinking, well, maybe I can get an Action Army hop-up because they're really good, but that would require a different barrel too, because the one that I wanted to get uses AEG barrels, and Action Army uses like actual VSR barrels. So I looked into it and I was like, no, you know what? If I want to upgrade, or if I want to swap out the barrels and hop up later on, I can, but I really want the AEG barrel, which is like a tight bore maple leaf barrel. So I called them and I was like, yeah, I'll just special order in the PDI clone. Like, it's a UFC CNC hop up. And they were like, oh, good news, we actually found one in the shop. It's like, all right, I'll go with that. Oh, it's the moon has life. So that's me slammed in either tomorrow, or I guess technically today, because it is 2:40 a.m. So either today or on Tuesday, because we have a holiday coming up. So that's kind of cool. Once it shows up, I can actually get back into that, because I do have a camera for my hat, and I have like some Lexan that I made a shield for it. I'm still waiting for my infrared flashlights to show up. If they don't show up, then I can just buy an incandescent flashlight and make an IR filter using a floppy disk, which I have. So I have that kind of going too, because once I have all those together, I can make airsoft videos that are like not complete garbage. Because my last one wasn't that great because it was very dark. But oh well. All right, what do we have here? Subglacial abiogenic unicellular. Lovely. Yeah, like there's a whole host of like, you know, parts and upgrades and bits and bobs, and it's like if you just ask what is the best parts, it's not a really good answer. It's not a really good question because there's no really good answer. It's like there are parts that are better than others. Like the aforementioned Action Army hop-up is seen by most people as one of the best hop-up units you can get for a sniper. And it's like, well, that's kind of cool. Whereas Action Army barrels are pretty... they're like one step up from like the stock barrels. Like, they're not bad, but they're not great. And then there's like the PDI hop-ups, which apparently are pretty good. And the one that I'm getting is just a version of that. A different brand, but it's the same hop-up. Doing research on it, there's very little I could find on it, but from what I did find, it's good. Like, it's much better than the stock hop-up. And if I ever do want to swap out the barrel and hop up again, which I probably will down the road, because that's just how, like, oh, it's actually in the planet itself. Because that's just the nature of the hobby. I'll probably go with an Action Army and a different, maybe like a Prometheus barrel or something. But for the time being, I'm going to go with the UFC CNC barrel, or hop-up, and a Maple Leaf barrel, and I'll see how that works. Because, like, honestly, the gun isn't terrible. Its accuracy isn't that great, but just the barrel and the hop-up alone will make that much better. And then after that, basically, it's like getting an Action Army hop-up and a new barrel. It might biogenic. It might kind of like it might improve performance a little bit, but maybe not enough to really matter. I'll have to see. Like, I'm honestly curious. So that's always fun. I also have to upgrade the trigger and the piston and all that, but I'll do that later because it works fine right now as is. I just want the barrel and hop-up replaced because that affects range and accuracy the most. Is the hop-up and barrel. The piston and all that, it's kind of tertiary. That's more for like tuning. Nobody left comments in the last video, so I'm just gonna talk about whatever. And it's like, well, airsoft is fun, kind of. I think it's fun. I'm a rabid pacifist, and I play airsoft because, you know, it's fun. Alright, what are we going to next? What's that? It's like lobular. Let's go there. Whoop. There's no... Ooh, actually, there are planets here. I doubt there's any life here. Oh, there was Blue Origin's announcement the other day, which was fun. It's kind of funny because a lot of people were like talking shit about it just because competition. It's like you have Elon Musk fanboys who are getting mad at Jeff Bezos because Blue Origin, blah 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 blah, and my billionaire is better than your billionaire. And I'm on the sideline like, I'm sorry, but both people have shitty personalities, but their companies are alright. Like, I personally like Blue Origin. I don't like Jeff Bezos, but I like Blue Origin. Kind of like how I like SpaceX, but I don't like Elon Musk, so there's that whole shindig. But I kind of like Jeff Bezos's ideas. I wish that his announcement wasn't, like, exclusive. Oh my god, there is life here. That was kind of a dumb move on his part, but whatever. Boop, a temperate Oceania. His Blue Moon lander, I mean, it's kind of cool. It's just a big lander. It's a modular thing. I like the idea of Blue Origin making a lander that NASA can use. It would help them with their the Moon 2020 mission, 2024 mission. But yeah, I just thought it was cool. His ideas about O'Neill cylinders and everything were pretty cool too. A lot of people got mad at that, where it's like, oh, making giant space habitats, this is a wild fantasy by Jeff Bezos. And it's like, no. It's a wild fantasy by people for the last, like, what, 50 or 60 years? It's like, O'Neill cylinders aren't a new thing. He didn't invent them. He just was like, we can build these. And people were, like, getting mad at him for that. It's like, he didn't come up with the idea. In fact, they've showed up in, like, everything else. Elysium had well, that was actually a Stanford Taurus. And Interstellar had O'Neill cylinders. Rendezvous with Rama was basically an O'Neill cylinder. It's like, it's an idea that's existed for a while, and he's just like, we should build them, and I'm like, we should. Of course, I take a more of a stepping stone approach. Which guy is this the Milky Way? It is. It's like I want to do a like a dumbbell or a counterweight space station first, where it's like basically it would be like you launch something like Skylab, where it's an all up in one shot space station. It has a big tether and a counterweight. Maybe even like you shoot the rocket booster, and then it spins and simulates gravity, and that'd be a test bed to test practical artificial gravity on a small scale on a disposable single-use space station that costs very little. And if that works out, you can then build a larger one, like a big, actually permanent, like ring space station. And then from there, you can build a small-scale anneal cylinder using, well, pretty reasonable construction like ideas and components. It would be more of a test bed. It wouldn't be like giant with like ecosystems. It'd be more just like a giant tuna can shaped thing that would just test the concept in small scale, and then from after that, then you can start thinking about, let's build a full size one, because you don't want to just build a full size one without knowing what you're doing. We've actually had very little like experience with artificial gravity. One of the Gemini missions played around with it a little bit, where they tethered the Gemini capsule to the Agena target vehicle, and then it had a big tether, and they spooled it out, and they spun it a little bit, and they made about 0.0005 Gs. It wasn't enough for the astronauts to feel it, but they did notice like floating bolts and stuff in the cabin were moving back like in the same direction, which indicated there was gravity being generated, or artificial gravity. Ooh, exotic unicellular. What's the atmosphere looking like? Mostly nitrogen, argon, carbon, excuse me, carbon monoxide, helium, neon, and krypton. That's always fun. But yeah, so like that's like, I love the idea of big space station habitats, and I like the idea of colonizing the solar system in habitats more than on planets, just because it solves the gravity problem. And the gravity problem, I've talked about it a few times. No one else ever seems to, which confuses me because it's a big problem. Humans are adaptable, which is nice, but gravity is not uniform everywhere you go. Like, I think Venus has the closest gravity to Earth. It's a little bit low. It's a little bit lower, but it's close enough that it wouldn't matter at all. Like if we had floating cities in the clouds of Venus, wouldn't be a problem. The gravity problem doesn't apply there. But the Moon, it very much does. Mars, it does not as much, but still does. Titan, it for sure would. And it's basically, you can colonize Mars, but it has 1/6, or it has, was it 1/6 gravity? Or is it the Moon? Oh, I think, yeah, Mars has like 2/3, the Moon is like 1/6. Either way, it has less gravity than Earth. And if you set up a colony there, sure, people will survive and adapt, but how will that affect them multiple generations down the line? Like, how would a 5th generation Martian look? How strong would they be? How would their bones and muscles be? Like, basically, you're setting up a situation where you're going to have a population on Mars that's trapped on Mars. They can never come to Earth if they wanted to. They can never go to any other... basically, you can only go to a planet that's lower than your starting gravity. So on Earth, we have 1G. So we can go pretty much everywhere in the solar system that has a solid surface, because Earth is the largest terrestrial planet. So we can go anywhere. But if you live on Mars and you're born on Mars, you're in a situation now where you can only go to places that have gravity equal to or lower than Mars. So you can't go to Earth or Venus ever, because you'd probably die. If you live on the Moon, same thing. Actually, living on the Moon, the gravity's so low that it would probably affect you the same way that zero gravity would. So humans might not even be able to conceive on the Moon unless there's an artificial gravity system, like a giant rotating habitat that's kind of angled. Then that might work, but the Moon's standard gravity, no. And there's also political problems. Now, science fiction has been warning us about this for a very long time. If you colonize other planets, but don't even attempt to maintain any form of species unity, you're going to get separatists, and they're going to separate, and then you're going to get conflict. Always, every freaking time. It happened on Earth, it'll happen in space. It's like, you don't want massive divides. You want to have some form of unity and collection and communication and organization. If you just colonize Mars right now, I can guarantee you in 200 years, we're going to have an independent Mars that hates us. That's probably how it's going to happen, because it always happens that way. But if we can figure out a way to prevent bone wasting and muscle wasting, then it wouldn't be a problem. Like, if there was a pharmaceutical way to basically chemically maintain or to chemically make humans grow and develop as if they were in 1G, regardless where they are, then you could basically have colonies of Martians where maybe they get an injection once a year, or maybe once every 10 years, or maybe just once when they're first born, and then it, lasts until they're mature. But basically just something so that colonists on Mars they stick with the species norm to prevent separation and potential problems. And also, if there's a colony on Mars, you want to give them representation right away. Like, you want them to feel like they matter. So I would say, like, colony on Mars, once they're established and they actually become self-sufficient, give them UN membership right away. Like, they have to just give them representation within the Earth structure. Keep them a part of the species. Don't just like, oh, they're a colony over there. It's like, no, that's a terrible idea. But anyways, that's 21 minutes, so I'm going to end it off there. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you have ideas for places to go or things to talk about, please let me know. If you want us to tell me you hate me, you can do that too. I read every comment, so you can do whatever you want. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and space.